we're taking her as she moves through the beam.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going towards her head, and as I'm coming back, here's her little spine, and then here's her heart. So the big thing that I'm looking at is this is her right atrium. It's big, like we saw in the echo. Her right ventricle is all of this really thick muscle. And then as I move forward, there's this narrowing right here. So all her blood has to get through this really small narrowing. Part of her problem is that this valve, which is right here, doesn't open all the way.
Oh, I see. There's always
You
like
see this?
that
Like,
way.
you see how it gets really narrow? And that's because her valve, instead of opening up, is stuck like this. A balloon procedure is great for opening up leaflets that are stuck together.
Okay.
The problem is that there's also probably scar tissue that she was born with, where a balloon won't be able to open up the scar tissue. I think she's somewhere in the middle, truly, of only having scar tissue as the obstruction, because that's the case in a lot of Frenchies, is that there's scar tissue that's caused the obstruction. Hers is kind of a combination of the two. Meaning, it's possible that a balloon procedure
Won't do much.
So one of the two. There's a possibility that it does a lot.
Oh, okay.
There's a possibility it doesn't do anything. And then there's also the possibility that it does a lot in the short term, but in the long term may not be beneficial, and then we end up in the same spot in 6 months.
So stent?
I think just based on our conversation this morning, if we're saying we want to, this is expensive to begin with, the stent procedure on its own is more expensive, but it is a one-time procedure the majority of times. It comes with a little more risk because we have an implant inside of her. So there's risks. We had one patient that had a blood clot that formed. Very, very uncommon. I'd put her on blood thinners to be safe so she doesn't form a clot. The other thing that a stent will do is it's a tube, a metallic tube that we inflate across the valve. Now, that opens up the valve, but it also makes it so the valve's no longer competent. So she has a big leak. And generally, the right side of the heart can handle it very well. We just don't have knowledge. What does that mean 10 years from now? But I do think that if we're going to, I think more likely than not, she would respond best to a stent.
Okay.
And the likelihood that she would need a second procedure with a balloon is pretty high. So we're at a spot where